Okay, now we're recording. All right. So, besides the mysteries of getting Lightroom CC and Classic to talk together, you don't have any questions before we start? Anybody gone home and tried all this stuff out?
I've played around with it, so,
okay.
and it has helped a great deal. It
So-
has helped a great deal.
If you go home and you put it up and you don't do anything with it, you've wasted $60 and
I'm a
8 hours of
perfect
your time.
example. It's
Huh?
okay. I'm a
Yes.
perfect example.
Yes. Marjorie took my class before and she didn't use it.
I didn't use it.
And so she's having to take it again.
Well, I did. I tried, and I was trying to use some of the masks that we
Yes.
talked about the other day. And so I made a mask and I pulled it halfway across, and I was going to darken that part. And everything I said for it to do, it did to everything instead of just within the mask. And I could see that my little button was still highlighted. So I couldn't understand why everything was getting darker when I tried to just darken.
You were doing the
that part.
gradient, the gradient thing.
Yeah.
So, it's real quick, the gradient. If I launch it, and you can tell my cursor turned to a plus, and if I drag from one part of the screen to another part of the screen, the effect is applied from the side you drag from, right? So I drag from the top down, so the effect is applied to the top. So, if I do that, you can see. If you did it, you started at the bottom and drug down, then you're going to apply that effect to most everything. So, if you try it again, is it still working now? Okay. It's like a car you take to the shop, right?
It's at work. They call me over and say, well, this phone's not working. I walk over, okay, let's see what you're doing. Working now. I said, you know what, this company runs a lot better. You get full-size colors. I mean, put them up.
Yeah.
Strategic locations.
I had a TV like that once, too.
Picnic error, person in chair, not in computer.
I hadn't heard that one. I heard a loose nut on the keyboard.
Yeah.
That
Like that.
one. So, all right. Other questions?
I was thinking, looking at with the color, remember under the HSL color, black and white,
Sure.
where we could change this one color? How do you do that?
Let me show you.
Is it like a click on the little circle? I don't know.
So if you go down to that HSL panel,
Right.
okay. So, if you're in this mode, you can change hue, saturation, or luminance, or you can actually see them all at once if you want. So, this bird's kind of got a burnt orange kind of head. I wanted to change the saturation on the orange. I could just grab that orange slider right there under saturation and drag it to the right. You see what happened? And drag it this way and it becomes a gray bird. So, so you can do that. You can also make that brighter or darker. And the other thing is, colors are never exactly match the slider, right? That's not exactly orange. There's a lot of orange in there, but it's not exactly. So what you can do if you want to change the saturation of the bird's head, you grab that little dot target thing, click on it, and now my cursor's changed to a plus sign with a circle, and it shows arrows pointing up and down.
Okay.
And if I click on an area that I want that has the color I want to change, and then hold my mouse down.
Moving the mouse.
I'm just dragging, you can't see it. You can't see it because the cursor's disappeared, but
You can see the sliders underneath, but the mouse is going up and down on the picture.
so this is not a great example because the color is mostly orange. It did change the yellow a little bit, so there's a little yellow in there.
So you went over there and you put your mouse down in the area.
Right here. Yeah, anywhere with that color. So I kind of hover over the color I want to change. So this out here looks kind of gray.
So when you're clicking on the red, is it only changing the red versus if there was something else orange?
It's changing that color in the whole
In the
picture.
whole picture, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's a good question because, you know, you might be changing that and it's changing something over here that you really don't want to change. So that's kind of the downside of changing colors like that.
Now, would that be the same, let's say you had a black and white picture, let's say, I was playing around and I don't know how to do it, some of these accidental things, I was like, that'd be cool if I did it good. But it was, black and white, like 2 wine glasses, I was
Mhm.
wanting to make the line red,
Ah.
so can you drop color and keep the lines nice and straight?
That's tough if you're starting from a black and white
Yeah.
and going to color, it's really hard.
Okay, because I found it, like I said, I don't know where I didn't know I was in the brush, I was trying to.
You could paint in, yeah, so you could go in and paint in a color with that adjustment brush. You know, you couldn't do it with this saturation HSL panel, but you could go in with a brush and paint
Is
in
that
it.
the only way really, because you can't drop it in and keep nice straight lines, and
You know, it kind of depends on what you're painting. So, you know, if I start with black and white of the guy downtown,
so maybe the dog, if you want to.
you know, so if I'm going to zoom in on the dog here, right, and I'm going to get an adjustment brush, okay, and I'm going to reset all my sliders back to 0 because I don't want to change the exposure or the contrast or anything like that. But down here at the bottom, people miss this. It's this color, and it looks like an envelope to me. You click on that, and it's going to bring up this panel here, and with an eyedropper. So if I wanted to make that dog kind of orangish red, I can click on the color I want. So now my paintbrush has been dipped in that color paint. And I come over here and start painting on him. So I've got auto mask on, so it's trying to find the lines on all that his fur. So auto mask, you know, it kind of tries to keep you inside the lines. So, and it, you know, so I painted that dog, and that's not really the color I wanted. So I, you know, as long as I got that paintbrush active, and that, you know, that little dot's got the black in the center right there, that says, you know, that's the active area. So come back here and click on it. I can change that color. You know, maybe make it a little golden, make him, you know, kind of strange, like coppery green. And so, you know, you get the idea. But yeah. So let me put my cursor kind of where you can see it. So you can see there's 2 circles, right? And the inside circle it's kind of that's when you're painting, that's the area that's definitely got paint on your brush. The outside's kind of feathers out, and if you've got that masking on, if the inside circle's over something and the outside is not, it's not going to paint outside. So, you know, here I keep my inside circle on the dog, even though the outside circle's kind of blending out. It's not going outside lines. Now, if I take it's not really showing up much. There's a slider down here called flow, and that's kind of like how much paint's in your brush. All right, so more flow, more paint. So now if I kind of go outside, see I'm outside the lines now. So it's kind of like painting. it's not easy to do with a mouse. It's really hard to do with touchpad.
Yeah,
It's really-
that's what I was doing. That was just plain.
Yeah.
I like that look of black and white.
So what you could do is if let's hit this guy. There's the original picture. If I wanted to make that mailbox a different color, I could come in here and grab that little targeted thing there, click on the blue, and I'm in the hue, so I can make that blue or green or purple. See what it's doing to the awning over the window? It's also changing that. So that may not be what you want. So
The
that's,
only reason it's still matters is because that wasn't the black and white, is already the color.
yeah. So the best thing is to always take pictures in color, convert it to black and white. The color information's still there. I could go in and turn down the saturation of everything but the blue. Right, so if I go to saturation and turn every color down except the blue. Now it's a black and white with a blue mailbox. So that might get at what you're looking for.
Paintbrush and do saturation.
Yeah. So yeah, good point, Alex. So that awning's kind of got that blue tint, and you really don't want that. So adjustment brush, and if you want to get rid of that color, I think that reset will take care of it. Yep. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to paint in no saturation. Now if I paint over top of that, it takes all the color out. Okay? So it's easier to start with color and go to black and white and then selectively adjust your colors than to try and go the other way.
Can you selectively, okay, I want to take a picture of linen and then make the meat part of the linen pink or pink linen?
Ah,
What would be the best way to do that?
it's a sliced lemon, so you got a little round.
Yeah, and it's yellow.
Yellow on the outside, you want it pink on the inside.
On the inside.
The best way is see if you can't use a radial filter, the little circle, and, and draw a circle. But I grabbed the wrong thing, radial filter. Draw a circle. Come on. And then within that, change the color a little bit.
Or reverse.
Or,
Keep everything color and desaturate the outside.
yeah. So you'd have to play around with the colors, because if you're painting, you're trying to take a yellow color and make it pink, you might have to add reds instead of pinks or whatever, but, or, so you could try that, just see if you can put a circle right over top of it. If that doesn't work, you might take a brush and paint in there. Just experiment around and see what you can come up with. All right, good questions. That's the best way to learn. So I was going to show you something. Go back to this bird. I'm going to reset him. All right. So, say I'm going to make some adjustments here. Adjust the exposure. Maybe make it a little more yellow. That's kind of really weird yellow. Increase the clarity. Make the whites a little bit more. So I'm just real quickly making some changes just to illustrate something. So, and say that's an effect I really like. Maybe if you think about it, if you've got a landscape, you might edit your landscape colors a lot the same, right? So you can go in and say, well, I want to synchronize these changes across multiple photos, or copy the changes from one to another. But another way is to go in and use what's called a preset, and you won't have all these presets that I've got here, but it's on the left-hand side, in the presets, there's a plus sign that says create new preset. So I click that, and box is going to come up, and I'm going to, call it, so I'm going to give it a name, and it says, where do you want to put it? You can see under my presets, I've got several folders, and then I've got a user preset folder. I'm just going to put it under that user presets. So it says, all right, what settings are you wanting to save? And this is kind of like a recipe. So, yeah, probably, I don't know, I'll just leave them all on there. So, create a preset. So now I've got a preset down here called Lightroom Class Preset. I go to another picture, and all I got to do is hover my mouse over, and see the picture at the top, it shows you a little preview of what that's going to look like. So I just click on that, and it makes all those changes to that photo. So you can create your own kind of preset starting point for photos. And you could have all kinds of extra vignettes. It could be softer or sharper. It could be warmer colors. Anything that you think you like and you might want to apply to other pictures in the future, you can create a preset. So yeah. Yeah. So, well, a preset, and again, all it is applying those changes to your picture. You can go then and adjust any of them you want, and because it may not be exactly, might be close, and so it kind of gives you a starting point. You can go from there. I've got in that on that thumb drive. Let's see. On that thumb drive, there was a Lightroom class, or called presets folder, and in there's a bunch of zipped files, and then a document that kind of tells you the steps for loading presets. So you can go out, and I think we'll not do it in class, because we'll use our time for something else, but you can follow these instructions, and these are all free presets that people have made, and they put them up on the internet that you can download them, and some of them are good, some of them are kind of, but I find it's personal preference whether you want to use them or not. I used to use them, and I don't use them anymore. I prefer to treat every picture as a unique photograph, and so I don't use them that much. But installing them is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So you can check that out later and install any of these that you might like. And if you go out and do a Google search for Lightroom presets, you could spend days and days going out there and looking at free presets. So you can make your own. You can I think yours probably have this Lightroom set of Lightroom presets. So you can look. Here's a black and white toned. So you could go through and pick different black and white treatments. So try those out. See if there's any that you like. If you click one you don't like it, click a different one. Again, it's just taking and applying settings for you.
This may be kind of repetitive of what I would have to do. You say you had a picture with overexposed sky.
Yeah.
It just washed it out, and you can't. I hope somebody take my wedding pictures, and we had people that took cell phone pictures that come up there. But the sky, it was a beautiful blue sky day, all the pictures of the sky is white. I don't want the sky to be blue. In the picture.
Yeah.
Fix that.
Well, you know,
Well, she was.
so,
I didn't pay her, okay, good.
so, yeah.
But I have to, oh, these are beautiful.
So here's that photo you're talking about. The sky was overexposed. There's nothing I can do about this part right here. Yeah, there's some stuff here, but this part, it was just so overexposed. There's nothing I can do.
And you can't, like, color flash.
Well, I could get my adjustment brush, reset it, go down, pick a color that's close to sky blue, and maybe paint in some blue. But that doesn't seem to be working. So, yeah. The brush is there. It's just that when it's solid white like that, if you'd have to have something besides Lightroom. If they're completely overexposed, you got to have something like Lightroom to fix that. Or I mean, Photoshop or some other program. You can go in and replace the sky, put nice puffy clouds, blue sky.
We just want to get blue, we'd be happy.
Yeah.
Blue, we'd be happy, but it's just-
Yeah. A lot of times, sometimes it looks overexposed, but yes, a lot of times like this, you can see it looks all overexposed, but in reality, there is some information in the sky there.
I'll have to show it to you after class, I have it on here.
Okay.
I'll see.
Yeah, see if you can find some of that. So, all right. But yeah, it's most important to take the photos correct or the best you can, and don't rely on post-processing because there's some things you just can't do. Okay. So let's see. Ashley sent me a couple of hers, and I'm going to edit them. All right. And I don't know if you saw what I sent you back.
I did.
So I'm going to find those. They're in here somewhere. All right. So, family vacation at the beach. Get everybody lined up. Great picture, and somebody walks into your photo. But it's also very backlit. That sun's really bright. Your camera tried to expose.
We took one like right before that, and I was like, okay, it's good, we'll do another one. And then it was super dark, and I was like, what just happened? And then the sun was gone, so I was like,
It was sunset.
yeah.
I think, if you look at the sun just above it, there's some clouds, and I bet you those clouds were blocking enough of that light when you took the first one. So let's do this. I'm just going to go through and step by step edit this and see what we can come up with. So, hit the auto button. Oh,
Yeah, sure. We were in Bradenton.
okay. So I hit the auto button, and now you can start to see some of the faces here. Okay. I'm also going to fix the horizon.
Yeah.
So you can see the water's running out the right side of the picture. So that's where I'm going to grab that thing that looks like a level, carpenter's level. It's a straighten tool. So this is real simple because that horizon's real easy to see. Click on the left side and drag over, let go. And now that horizon is straight. All right. And the good thing is, it hasn't chopped off any important parts of your photo, right? You didn't lose an arm or a leg on the side. Sometimes when it does that, you can see it's cut off parts of all four sides. But you have
It's straightened it. It's once you drew the line and let go. I mean, it straightens it itself, or did you put it right where your line was?
So you draw a line. You say this is horizontal,
And that's where
and it says, all right, I'm gonna turn the picture to make that
So if
horizontal.
you drew your line and it was still a little crooked, it's still going to be crooked.
Yeah.
So there is another tool on down.
There is.
Is that, do you like that better?
This is for like this where the camera was tilted. This is perfect.
That's better.
So the other one's for correcting like perspectives and stuff. If you're taking architectural pictures
Okay.
and things are, the lines go this way or this
Okay.
way, we can look at that a little bit. So now we've got a little bit better, but it's still, faces are still kind of dark. So I'm going to turn the exposure up some more. And I can start doing that and say, that's probably the right exposure. But the problem is, now the sky's over. Yeah, that sunset was beautiful. So, I can turn that back down. What I want to do is get the people exposed properly, like somebody who's had a light shining on them, but not anything else. So let's leave that sunset kind of the way it is. I'm going to grab my adjustment brush, reset it so there's nothing there. And I'm going to add some exposure on that adjustment brush. And I'm going to start. But I'm not spending a lot of time trying to, color in the lines necessarily. If you go over the edge, like you can see it. They got halos. You can always, there's three brushes. There's an A and a B. They're just basically two different sizes, and then an eraser.
So you did the adjustment brush and then the only thing you need to do is
Exposure.
leave that up and then
Mm-hmm. So now I've grabbed the eraser brush. I'm going to increase the feather a little bit. And I've got auto mask turned on, so it's going to try and stick to the lines. So I can go in here and kind of fix where I went crazy and get it back to where it doesn't look, doesn't look like they have halos. So, you might think, well, that looks okay. Looks a lot better than it did. I might turn up the shadows. If you go too much, things start to look a little washed out, and one way to fix that is to add a little clarity. And you see the difference in the people on the left and the people on the right here. Again, I could, go in and if I was spending more time, I would kind of zoom in. And start getting around the edges and trying to fix that a little better. Yes.
First select the brush,
Mm-hmm.
then you come in and hit this one, and then you adjust the one thing that you're doing, and then you go on.
Yeah. And that first adjustment before I start painting is kind of a guess. And I might overdo it so I can better see what I'm painting. Then you can go back and fix it. So the thing you want to do here, you'd want to paint the other people on the right. And you want them to be exposed like the people on the left. So if I'm back in my adjustment brush, you can see she's got that dot right on her forehead. If I click on it, it's now selected. I can right click and say duplicate. It'll make a copy. Now it's really bright because it's put it on there twice. I'm going to click on it, drag it over here. And now I've got another copy I can start painting in. And so that's a quick and easy way to make sure that the settings on the two are the same. You could also just say, well, okay, it was plus 56 and plus 22, and you could do that as well. Get rid of that. a faux,
You take the clipper and make, two copies of it, and then just the overall for the area that you're concerned about.
mhm.
The sky and the sand, and then do it.
I've done that. It's been a while, but you can do that. So you kind of get the idea. Um, so where I colored outside the lines. So before, when I've got the adjustment brush, down here it says it's got this brush section, A, B, and eraser. So, oops, one eraser. So you get the idea. And, well,
Or would you do a spot, would that take them out?
well, let me show you.
It's too
Yeah.
area.
So, let me show you. We're gonna, I'm gonna zoom in on those pesky people. And grab that spot removal brush. I'm just going to paint over this guy. Lightroom's going to think or a little bit and say, that's not too bad.
When you brushed it out, what did you do?
I just let go. So Lightroom kind of looks at what I brushed and it says, is there something around here that's kind of similar? And it will copy over top of it.
You just let go of it.
Let go of it. And sometimes it does a pretty good job like then. And I think because, you know, it's got some nice horizontal lines with the waves and it could line those up. Now I'm going to try and do it again with this person. And let's see. So, you know, it's not bad. Yeah, so I can go down here and when you get multiples in there, it gets difficult because it wants to select the one you don't want to work on. So here's where it's failing. See what it did? It went down there to grab the copy from. But yes, so I can go down here and click on this. That's not what I want to copy. I'd rather copy from over here.
Very good.
So it's not perfect, and I could go in and do some more sliding it around. You know, and I might that reflection of the sun. Maybe you like that. Maybe you don't. You can take that out. So I want to show you that. So, okay. So, no. So, you mean Photoshop? You got Photoshop. So you also have, these look like spots, but I'm sure they're seagulls, right? So this is where, you know, the spot removal tool can be really good. So you just the brush smaller, the thumb wheel on my mouse, or the slider right here, size. So yeah, this is what this spot removal was designed for. Just get rid of individual spots. So.
And the second little circle that pops up is where it's popping in front.
Mm-hmm. So, before, after, you know, I could spend more time. I'm going to go back.
What have you done from before, after?
The backslash key does a before and after. There's also down here at the bottom, it's two Y's next to each other, and you hover over it says cycles between before and after views. So you can see them side by side. Click it again. You see them kind of split down the middle vertically. You can see them top to bottom, split this way. So but I prefer just to kind of flip back and forth. I'm going to go back and all those spot removal things. Go back to, okay. If you bought the $9.99 a month package, you do get Photoshop. And so I'm going to show you what you can do is do photo, edit in, and I've got a lot more stuff on here than you would have. But you would have Photoshop as an editor. And you can see that's down here, edit in Adobe Photoshop CC 2018. So I just click that. It's going to come up and ask me a question. Do I want to edit the original, or do I want to edit a copy with all the changes that I've made? I want to edit a copy with all the changes. Just click edit. So now it's going to basically make a copy of it for you and open it up in Photoshop. One click. And I'm not going to teach Photoshop in here because we'd be here for weeks. But it'll come here in a minute. I'm not going to attempt because I'm not good enough in Photoshop to teach it. So, but so so now it's open in Photoshop, and there's a lot of things you can do there that you can't do in Lightroom. So if I want to, we got this spot healing brush. You just paint over it. It kind of does what Lightroom does, but it's a whole lot better. So if you want to get rid of those feet, look at that. A whole lot easier. Yes. Oh, well, here, I'm going to try to take these people out. So I got this spot healing brush, so I can, it usually works better if you don't try and do all of it at once. I'm going to decapitate them. But it's not, and sometimes you have to go over it a few times. And so, that's kind of okay. But then there's this other thing, this clone stamp tool, and it's kind of like what Lightroom does. So I'm going to say I'm going to copy from here and paint that over top. So now I can start. Then I can get right up, next to her arm. So Photoshop's got a lot more power for doing things like that. I'm not suggesting that you go out and learn Photoshop, but you might learn a few things in Photoshop if you've got it. And again, if you're paying the $9.99, you got it. So things like cloning out stuff. It works a lot.
Series, a video series called Full Dot to Dot. It's the ones that photography.
Yeah. So that would be good. That's a video course, isn't it?
Yes.
Matt Kloskowski.
Now, once you edit the photo,
So
how do you send that?
okay, good question. If in that document I gave you that has good Lightroom resources, one of them is a link to Matt Kloskowski's Lightroom video course. So if you go there, you're at his website. You could browse around. So I'm done editing, and if I can just say exit here, and it'll say, all right, do you want to save? Yeah, I say yes. It closes that out. Go back to Lightroom. Open my film strip back up. Okay. So actually, I'd done this earlier today. So it's added a third one automatically, and it's put them into a stack together. So they're all stacked together. So there's one I did earlier today, taking a little bit extra time. There's this one. So that's how you can launch it from Lightroom. You can say I want to edit Photoshop, or if you have some other programs, you can say, I want to edit and whatever, and it takes care of that for you. Kind of a, they make it quick to go back and forth. So,
Edit that file, you're only, you go back to that raw file, and you're working with the Photoshop version.
it's a copy, yeah. So, and Photoshop is not a non-destructive. So, where I took those people out, I can't go back and undo now.
There is a way to include letters, but then save all the letters too, and go back to the
Okay. So, the other one, let's see, Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, all right?
And I tried a whole bunch of them, I feel like they're all.
They all look the same?
Yes,
Okay. So,
I mean, different angles, but.
yeah,
colors
so,
and stuff.
so here's what, you know, again, and there's no horizon here. You can't tell if it's tilted or not. It looks natural. Waterfall looks like it's falling down, so I don't have to straighten it. I'm going to hit the auto, and you can see, I don't know if you can see up there or not, you know, there's a little bit of definition in the sky up there. It's been a lot of years since I was there. I don't think the rocks were that yellow. So what I might do is this might be a case where, you know, the camera auto white balance didn't quite do correctly. You could try. Well, it's JPEG, so I can't.
Yeah, so I didn't,
Yeah, but you can still make it less yellow, more blue, and that might be a little more natural looking. You know, again, it's been a lot of years since I was there, so I don't remember. The sky, I think, you know, there's some clouds there. They're kind of hard to see, so I want to bring that out. So I'll grab that brush, and I might make a little, you know, decrease the exposure a little bit, and then use clarity. And what clarity can do is make things like clouds pop out. So now I'll just go in here and start painting. And, again, I just guessed at the settings, so I might turn it down a little more. Maybe not that much. Turn up the clarity. Another one that's good for clouds is dehaze, but that's one you have to be really careful with.
I
So,
don't have that on my system.
yeah, dehaze was the later addition. But you know, that's probably too dark. You know, I turned it up a little bit, but you can see, you know, you can bring out. You see the clouds more. So that was before. After it's starting to look a little better. When you look at a photo, your eye's always drawn to the brighter things. The waterfall and the river is kind of the main attraction here. So this is where you start getting into artistic license. So I'll grab my adjustment brush again and maybe make it a little brighter. And I'm going to come in here, make that stand out a little bit more. And maybe make it even a little bluer. You know, again, it's up to you. So now the waterfall and the river kind of, you know, catches your attention a little more. And the other thing, it looks like it was an overcast day and not a lot of shadows.
It was like early morning when we got there, it was.
Okay.
It wasn't, it's not like that.
Yeah. So you can make, you know, you can use your adjustment brush and kind of put fake shadows in. So, you know, I've got it's little, I can add a little sun in here. You know, I might even make it a little yellow, like it was sunrise. And you can, you know, again, you're getting into painting here. You know, might do another one and turn it down a little bit. Okay, well, if the sun was shining, it might not show up there. So, anyway, so you can do that. I find that works good on trees, forests. Sometimes you can kind of make it look like there's a little bit of light shining. It adds a little bit more definition to it. So, before and after. You know, this one didn't need a lot, and I don't want to be heavy-handed with it. And then, so if you did this once and you had a whole bunch of photos that look very similar, you could either create a preset and reuse it, or you could do that, copy your settings here, copy, say, I want to copy everything. Probably not the local adjustments, because that's not going to line up in every picture. And then you can just paste it over top of the others.
So you copy and then you do it, right? I've
Uh,
done that on a series before.
So I copy, and I'm going to turn off local adjustments. And here's another copy that I was editing earlier. And then just say, I said paste, it's not hard to see. So, and you can also do, the one like your source, and then you could go and click on a bunch and say synchronize, and it'll take whatever you put first and apply it to all of them that you've selected. I'm not going to do it.
You're on fire.
Ah!
You're on fire.
That's weird. Okay. So, anyway, so you could do that for lots of pictures, and it'll get you there. 80-90%. You can adjust it. So time saver. You might do that just for your favorites. All right. So those were the two. Wanted to show you. Let's see. That is. This one. Foggy morning. Hardly see the birds out there. But I can take. I'm gonna crop it first. So make it kind of a wide panoramic look. And then click auto and see what happens. Oh, there's birds in there. And so, it did a pretty good job cleaning that up. And again, clarity can even make them stand out even more. And this kind of thing with fog, the effects, the dehaze is under effects. You can grab that. And the fog has gone away before
That was D-Way.
dehaze. So you can get a lot of, if you don't have dehaze, you got an earlier version, clarity can do a lot of that. So, and both of those are kind of messing with the contrast, is what it's doing. And you can do, you can mess with the contrast, maybe make it even a little brighter. So, something like that can really help. Let's see if there was something else I was going to show you before we get into the exporting, how to send things out. Oh. I should have brought an example of a building. Let's see. This might work. This is that HDR that we did Tuesday inside the train car. You can see that this here is a little boat. It might have been bowed, but down here under transform, there's some new features in I think it came out in version 6. so it wouldn't be at 5. They can do some automatic fixing of things that are perspectives are not right. If you're looking up at a building, it kind of goes like this. It can fix some of that. So you can just try. There's an automatic button. Try that and see what it does here. It didn't do much.
The auto button is under transform.
Yes. There's also you can manually adjust things. Fix the perspective and stuff. If I brought a better example, this one might work. Well, that's all pretty straight. You can see the line of the cabinet on the right is closer to the edge at the top than at the bottom, and similar kind of thing on the left side. So if I hit automatic, it kind of straightens out those lines. It works really good if it can see vertical or horizontal lines. It'll analyze it and it'll do things like move the corners in and out and try and make things look correct. So best use in architectural things. The issue is, if we stood at the bottom of a 10-story building and shot up, it's gonna have more of a pyramid shape than a building, and if you try to adjust it, it's gonna start pulling the bottom in, trying to make those lines straight, and then what's happening is you're cropping it off and get a very tall, narrow picture. So
It's warping the whole picture, and then if you notice that train scene, it kind of like zoomed in a little, but it was cropping in to cut those diagonal lines of the photo itself now.
yeah. So
Are you saying that you don't think it's a very good?
it's got a good application in a lot of situations where things just don't look right. Maybe inside a building, this corner of the wall is kind of looking angled, and that one looks straight. It can fix that. But if you're in that situation when you're photographing, think about, well, if I'm going to fix this later, it's going to take off some stuff off the sides. So just zoom out a little bit so you have room to cut stuff off. Otherwise, you might lose something important. But that's that works pretty well. The other option is there's this guided thing that's fairly new. Click on that, and it says, all right, help me out, draw lines where things should be vertical or horizontal. So I'm going to draw one there and one there and let go. And it adjusts the picture to make those two lines parallel.
That's missing on my six. The guided,
Mm-hmm.
the guided is not on 6.
No, it's a fairly recent addition. So, anyways, like I said, it has some good use, but if you're not shooting inside or taking pictures of buildings, wide angle lenses tend to do that for us. So. All right, so that's kind of what I want to cover around editing. We got an hour. I'm going to show you what to do with your pictures now that you've got them. Right? So once you've edited and you're happy with your picture, you go into the export step. And on Windows, it's under File and Export. So what export does is, takes your original file that's still there, applies all those changes to it, and then creates another file that you would then use for whatever you want to use it for. For sending it to a print lab, or putting it on Facebook, or put it on Instagram, or Shutterfly, any of those things. So here's the export dialog box. Yours might look a little bit different because I've added a few here. Yours probably just have the Lightroom presets. but it's gonna ask you information up here. You're basically creating a file. You say, where do you want to send it, and your options are, to a specific folder, which is the one I use most often. Same folder as the original photo. Choose folder later. So you can save these settings, and then if you said choose folder later, when you do the export, it's going to come up and ask you where you want to do that, where you want to send it. And then it's got a few common places. So I'm going to say specific folder, and then I'm going to choose where do I want it. So I've got one, I've got a folder called Scratch, and so I'm going to say, yeah, put it in the Scratch folder, and then I can say under there, I can even put it under a subfolder, but I'm just going to leave it at Scratch level. I don't ever do this. You can add it back to the catalog when you export, and you've got another version of your photo that doesn't have all the edits, and so better off just not using that. If there's a file out there with the same name, what do you want to do? And it'll ask. So I'll just let it ask me every time. What do you want to call it? So by default, if that's not checked, it just gives it the same name as your original, which is not always very helpful. So DSF 1401, but not very helpful. You can rename it. If you check that box, then you got some rules for renaming it. So you could say, give it a custom name, and then a number, a sequence number, or just a custom name, a date with the file name, the original file name plus the sequence number. So I'm going to say, one I use most often is a custom name with a sequence number. So I'll say custom name, call it Lightroom class, and it'll show you underneath an example. So the file would be Lightroom class -1. So it'll start with 1. If I select multiple files to export all at once, it'll just start numbering them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's one I use most often. But sometimes you don't want just a single digit, because if you're exporting more than 9, when it gets to 10, the sort order, when you're looking at your files in a folder, it goes, like 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can do, under the custom name sequence drop down, there's an edit. So then I can say, it shows you, all right, custom text dash sequence number. I can take that sequence, click on that sequence number, delete it, and I'm going to add sequence number with 2 digits. So now it'll be Lightroom class -01. So I could do 99 of them, and in the folder they would be sorted correctly. Edit, and it shows you, up here. There's the example, and then it says, all right, custom text. It's getting that from the whatever you fill in, and then sequence number. So I took out what it had, so I just clicked on it to highlight it, press delete to take it out. Still got the dash there. And then down here I could say, sequence numbers. So, I could do a 3-digit. So
If you said done there, does that save it for every time you?
I'm going to show you here. So, yeah. So, come on. Insert that. So now it says, all right, my file is going to be Lightroom class -01. There's some stuff for video. Lightroom doesn't edit videos, but it will read them. So if you got a video on your card, it'll import the video from your camera, and you can see it when you're browsing through there, and you can play it, but you can't edit it.
You can, contract it to what you want. You can
Chop.
Chop it to a certain portion and then write it out, that's about it. I think there's a only on the, Kellogg paper, you can do some minor adjustments.
Yeah, I've never used.
But only on the Kellogg, you can't go into develop. But on the Kellogg, there's some basic adjustments you can do, exposure in that, applies the whole thing in that, but you can do those right there, but they're very limited.
I've never done that, actually. So it's, all right, so we've told it the file name. What kind of file are you creating? You know, right now it says JPEG. You know, you could save it as a JPEG. PSD is the Adobe Photoshop format. You can save it as a TIFF or DNG or whatever the original format was. So I'm going to leave it as JPEG. And then since JPEG is a compressed format, you can tell it how much do you want to compress it, how much, basically how much quality do you want to throw away. 100% it's not compressing it, you know, so you can turn it down, make the file smaller or bigger. 100% is the biggest file that you're exporting, you know, 90 is usually good enough for most anything.
How would you know this? How would you know what, would that vary per picture, each individual picture?
Let me show you. I want to show you an example here.
Richard, I assume that you have the raw file, right? Is that JPEG's not even better than JPEG?
Right. Yeah, it doesn't. If you have a raw file, you can save it out as a JPEG.
JPEG, just leave it alone.
Yeah. Let me show you. These are those two. All right. Details. Let me do details. These are the two files that Ashley sent in, right, after I edited them. One's 11.6 megabytes and one's 4 megabytes. They're pretty much the same dimensions, but one's got a whole lot of detail, that Yellowstone picture, lots of detail there. The other one was a sunset, not a lot of detail. So when you've got lots of solid colors and not a lot of detail, JPEG can take a whole lot of data out and make it much smaller. But if it's a picture with a whole lot of detail in it, it can't compress it as much. So
What's the setting? What setting would you use?
I use 90. So
That's standard.
you know, for if I'm going to send it out for the web or anything, if I'm printing, I'll show you what I do for printing.
Any reason you wouldn't use 100?
It just makes it a little bigger, and it really doesn't add much.
Even on 70, you just can post on Facebook.
Facebook, when you send something out to Facebook, it compresses it even more, and you notice the picture quality kind of goes down. Instagram's not quite as bad. You can say, I want to resize my picture when I export. You know, what's the dimensions I want? Okay. So you can say width and height. Dimensions are pretty much the same. You can say, all right, the long edge. You know, how long is the long edge? That could be the side vertical dimension or the horizontal, depending on the picture. Short edge, you could say, how many megapixels? I never really use that, but you can say, all right, resize it to 5 megapixels. Or you could resize it to a percentage. What I typically do is, it's, you know, what are the dimensions I need? Facebook is 1280, I think, is the maximum you can upload. You could have it apply some sharpening when you export. So, and if you do, you can say, I want to sharpen it for displaying on the screen, printing on matte paper, or printing on glossy paper. So, you know, if you're printing on matte paper and glossy paper, they're very different mediums, and it sharpen more or less. But if you're sending it to
You'd
like a
have to be
website,
sending it to print, because you wouldn't know what it would look like.
you know, I typically don't do output sharpening because I've already zoomed in at 100% and I've sharpened it myself. So if you do output sharpening, it's adding more sharpening. So I typically don't do that.
That's what I'm thinking, we can resize to fit too. You've already framed it the way you want it. That seems dangerous.
Well, that won't actually crop it. So if I say, make it, you know, width is 1280 and the height is 1000, but if it won't change my ratio. So my picture may come out to be 1280 by 600. You know, the height may not be, it may be a wide, short picture. So this is kind of the maximum.
Same with the maximum.
This is the maximum. So, yeah.
There's some contrast you have to that you specifically what size stacks, just for you to find it, and before you get for,
Yeah.
or I make those license plates up front.
So,
So normally you don't need to do that though unless there's some specific,
Specific, very specific thing.
you don't
They-
change that.
you could,
Or makes a pixel the biggest thing too. You do not accept anything bigger than such size.
yeah.
Period. So size is actually the size of the file.
Your files have metadata in them, and metadata is all that information about your picture. You know, your camera, what lens, what date. You know, you could include that. I'll tell you, if you upload it to Facebook, it takes all that stuff out, so you never can get it back off once you upload it. It can be useful. So I just leave it all on. Doesn't really hurt anything. And then you can add a watermark, and I'll show you that here in a little bit. So once all this is set, and these are kind of like, all right, yeah, this is kind of a setting I want to reuse. I come down here and say, I want to save this for later. I click Add, call it class example, and I'll put it under the user presets. So now there's a class example preset here for outboarding. So I'm going to click Export. And up on the left, you see it says Export one file. It'll give you a little progress indicator, and it's done. I put that in the Scratch folder. So called it Lightroom Class 01. So there's picture. So now I've got a JPEG version of my photo. You can see I told it 1200 wide by 1000 high, but it came out 667 wide and 1000 high because it was oriented the other way. Anyways, if you're just sending it out to the web, you know, those kinds of settings are fine. I've got a couple different settings. You know, here's one full-size JPEGs, so it doesn't do any compressing, doesn't resize it at all. But the other settings are all pretty much the same. I've created one for Instagram. Instagram has a certain set of size that they want, so I can do that. I haven't found a lot of use for the Lightroom preset ones. I tend to use my own because this, you know, Burn full-size JPEGs wants to write it to a CD or DVD. You know, that's not real useful. So, if you want to send something to print, on my home computer, I've got a preset for printing, but I'm going to go back to put it in a folder called Prints. Just gonna leave it, file name like it is. Output format, most of the places you send things to print want JPEG or TIFF. JPEG tends to work pretty good. If you're sending it to a printer, change your color space to Adobe RGB. And that's sRGB is designed for monitors, and monitors can't display as many colors as a printer can print. So it kind of limits your colors.
So
So
you send it to Shutterfly or someplace like that.
you send it to Shutterfly or, whatever those kinds of places. I would change it to RGB. Now, if you create an Adobe RGB version and then you put it up on Facebook, it'll look a little faded. It's because, web browsers don't always display those correctly. So sRGB to display it on the web, Adobe RGB if you're sending it to a printer. I would tend to not resize it and then just export. So now it's created a folder called prints, and you'll see that file show up there in a second. So, yes.
So you're saying that if you have figured out where you want it to look on your screen, and you're about to print it, if you don't change from the sRGB to the Adobe RGB, it won't look as, it won't look the same. But it will look the same if you change it.
If you can send an sRGB file to a printer and it'll print and it'll look okay. If you save it as Adobe RGB and send it to a printer, it'll look a little better. All right.
So the printers do that automatically, or?
The printers can tell what color space it's stored in.
The normal printing machines don't have this setting.
If you're printing at home, that would be a little different. So it's got a print function here built
Color
in.
on your camera too, like when you take it, can't you pick the RGB color there too?
Yeah, so good question. Your camera has settings in it to, if you're saving it as JPEG, you can tell it, what color space to save it in. And I would set it to Adobe RGB because it's going to save more color information versus if you saved it in your camera in sRGB. It's got less color information. And the difference is one's designed to display on a monitor and one's designed for printing. You can always go from an Adobe RGB color space and go down to an sRGB. You can't go the other way. So
what is the normal, preset for cameras, that you're gonna look for that? You know that.
I don't know. It probably varies by camera.
sRGB, I remember seeing Adobe RGB that out.
Camera manufacturers are going to think most people are taking pictures and they're sending them to the web, and sRGB is going to look fine on the web. It'll look good on the web.
So if I save it as Adobe RGB, I'm still looking at the monitor anyway.
You can still look at it. And so this one's saved in Adobe RGB, and I can look at it.
But you said this, that the other one's optimized for a monitor,
Yeah. So,
Tech 22 cents. So I'm gonna evaluate the thing in the monitor.
well, it kind of depends on, you think about what am I going to do with this copy of my picture? And, you could, I'm going to put it on the web, I'm going to save it as sRGB. I'm going to send it to Shutterfly or somebody, I'm going to
Copy the picture, I'm okay with it. The picture is, the file coming on my camera,
Oh.
I'm a little different.
I would,
See, if I save it as that, I already compromised the file, so I can't look at it as good in the monitor. So I can't evaluate and do it.
if you're looking at it in Lightroom, either one's going to look correct. It's Internet Explorer, Chrome, those browsers that don't always,
Also, latitude, and you edit, how far can you edit before it falls in garbage?
yeah.
So I like to do, when it's time here, what he does, is I use the Pro when I'm editing. Because it gives me bigger color space to do more adjustments. And then I
Yeah.
can say how to work.
So, yeah, Pro RGB is another setting, and it's,
It's a lot larger,
yeah, it's,
especially I'm moving to other editors too.
Uh,
If they Pro, I go that route.
I'm not sure if all photo print labs support Pro.
Well, I won't set it as Pro,
Okay,
but I will edit the Pro, but it is the latitude to edit.
yeah. So, set your camera to save it in RAW. If you're saving in RAW, it doesn't matter. If you're saving in JPEG, set it to save in Adobe RGB, assuming you're going to bring it into Lightroom and then export it out. So, okay. So that's if you want to, put it up on the web, send it to Shutterfly or whoever your favorite, printer is. If you have a printer at home, you can print from Lightroom. And there's actually, up here at the top, there's a print module. Library develop, there's a print module. And I will say, the print module is some of the hardest stuff to figure out sometimes. It is trying to put a whole bunch of copies of your picture on a sheet of paper. If you ever go to your kids go to school and they come home with their class photos and they got a 5x7 on there and a whole bunch of these little wallets and it's all on one sheet of paper that you have to cut out. That's what it's trying to do here. So you have to go in and say, let's start. Well, get rid of that. I don't really use print that much, so add to page, all right, I'm going to add an 8x10. So that, there's an 8x10 version of my photo.
You really need to do the printer and set up the printer so it knows what to do.
Yeah.
So the layout will eventually.
So I don't print at home because my printer will print pretty nice, 5x7s or 8x10s, but it's expensive compared to sending it out and letting somebody else print it. Inkjet printer, the ink for inkjet printers is not
I get
cheap.
frustrated with Module. I bought a Canon printer.
Mhm.
Canon came with its print program that it had on that I could send off to, and it doesn't like that.
Yeah.
With lots of flexibility.
So the print module is confusing, and it's designed for a photo studio kind of arrangement.
Color match is what really. I
Yeah.
printer.
So, you can try this, play around with it, so, and get it the way you want it, and then, I gotta say, where do I want to send it? And I don't have a printer attached, so it's, Black History Month. So I think there's a Black History Month event here tonight. So we got background music. So my recommendation is save the file out, print it yourself from that, or send it to somebody to print.
One thing I found this useful for is you want to create a file that's a montage. You make the montage here, there's an option on there, print the file. Now you got a JPEG of that montage. I post it. One picture with one image, you can have one picture with multiple images. You post on Facebook or something, one picture.
So
If you save as JPEG, you have the print module, we can create such a camera.
So I've selected several. You know, I'm not sure.
You get
It's-
multiple pictures and get one,
Yeah.
the first one, and not the best, you gotta drag it in yourself.
And what I find is it never works right the first or second time, and you end up wasting paper and ink. So,
Printing the JPEG, of course, out there. Right? I have a finished image, and I want to see the show the before and after. Same picture.
Something else I forgot to show you on the export. When you do the file export, pick that preset class export. There's a watermarking option. So you can add a watermark to your picture.
Alright, Robert, how'd you do the export file again?
File, and then export.
Preset he already made.
Yeah.
So it's like,
So then I just picked that preset I made a little while ago, class export, for class example. So come down here where it says watermarking. If I check that, then you got some options. You can edit watermarks. So this, you can see down at the bottom, it's got copyright and my name at the bottom left. You know, I can change the opacity, make it fade away, come back. You've got a little grid here. I can put it at the bottom right, put it right smack in the middle. You've seen people that have their logo right in the middle of a picture, and they're doing that so somebody doesn't steal it, right? So, that's just a simple text watermark. You can add graphics, and if you have a graphic watermark, you can stick it in there. PNG is a graphic format. It's like JPEG, but what PNG does, a great JPEG doesn't, is have blank space, clear, see-through parts. Right? If you put a JPEG picture on there, it's just maybe
that's it.
it's a square with something inside. If you want to have a graphic logo, PNG allows you to have the logo, but the rest of it's clear. So it doesn't. Lightroom doesn't create that. You'd have to have that from somewhere else. You can do it in Photoshop, or there's people will do one for you online. But I found that just simple watermarks, if you want one, is fine.
The metadata, do that way, or just puts it just puts it
On the output, yeah. It just puts it when you create an output, when you export. It just does it on the output file. It doesn't do it to your original. It doesn't do that. So
Doesn't add to the metadata on the original file. Like if you want to do that, how would you do that?
add your copyright information to the metadata.
I would first check your camera, make sure it is settings, and it might be no,
You-
you can, but check your camera and see if you can actually edit at the camera level. From that on, you're done, otherwise it's going to show you out.
So, if you're in the library module, you can see all that metadata on the right, and you can see right here, it says artist, Richard Siggins, software here. Got my creator, it's got my Kingsport address, got my email on there, my website. All that information can be embedded in your picture when it's exported. If somebody ever got a hold of your picture and wanted to get a hold, got a copy of it and wanted to get a hold of you for some reason, potentially if they knew how to look it up, they could look it up and see that information in there. I had a guy from a band in California found one of my pictures online, wanted to use it on their CD cover. So they were able to track me down. I don't know where they got the copy of the picture, but they were able to track me down because of that information in there. So,
Make some money.
no, I didn't make any money. You know what he told me? He said local bands make less money than photographers. I felt really bad for him then,
And they're credit, you okay?
And they're only making 100 CDs. It's not like they're
But
making.
did you get a CD?
Yeah, they're going to mail them to me. They sent me a couple of their
CDs.
first edition. So, but I listened to their first edition, their first CD, and it's like, I'm glad I'm not paying money for it. So, but it was fun. But you can add that in the import. So in the import process itself. It's not. It's not something I really. Once I set it up, I really don't worry about it much after that.
And then Facebook, profile or preset has copyright watermark on there, so.
No, I used to,
Oh, really?
and I don't anymore. I feel. Facebook, the pictures that are on Facebook are so low resolution, low quality. If somebody wants to steal it,
If you want to drop quality, I think it's 75 pixels per inch is ideal for video of your monitor. That you go to enlarge it or print it, it's awful. So it's ideal for your monitor. So that's one way to do it.
yeah. So I used to do that. I used to be worried that people were going to steal my photos, and I thought, I don't care. So there's one of the professionals that I follow had kind of the same philosophy, and I said, well, if he doesn't care, I don't care.
I just read today that copyright rules have changed as of today. You used to be able to send thousands of pictures in and fill one form out for that fee is $50 or something like that. As of today, 75 pictures you can max. So if you got pressure goes out on that Safari, you got to do multiple applications.
Submission.
$50
So.
each.
And you don't actually have to submit to the patent office.
Once you go to court, yes, you do.
In theory, once you create the picture, you're the creator, you own the copyright. But if somebody stole it and made $1 million, and you want to sue them,
Just
The monkey got
and the
no
monkey,
copyright.
and the monkey. Have y'all heard the story about the monkey? So this photographer I forgot where he was. I think it was those pools in Japan where the hot pools where the steams come up and the monkeys sit in the water. I don't know if that was that, but anyways, the photographer gives his camera to a monkey, and the monkey takes a selfie. Right? This is a wild animal, and he just happens to be holding it right. He probably took a lot of them and pushed the button, and it's a really great, funny picture. And then they got into who owns the picture, the monkey or the photographer? Because the photographer didn't take it. The monkey did. So the monkey won.
It actually came out in the appeal, man.
Did they? When you get into legal things and lawyers, things get kind of wacky.
I think the animal rights did it just to earn money for their organization or something. We're going to
So,
handle it for him.
Now you, in order to export, you can select a bunch of pictures to export.
Yes.
One time, select all.
Good question.
You don't have to do it.
Smiling.
Yep.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
And the monkey actually won, did it? What, is that what you said?
No,
The photographer?
The guy eventually won, but it had to go through a field course.
Wow.
I think originally the monkey had.
Monkey won.
That is hilarious.
But the animal rights group won.
Crazy. Good question. When you export, you can select multiple. So I've selected 4 photos here, and I do that, export. And so it's going to do all 4, and it says, oh, there's a file out there with Lightroom Class 01 already there. What do you want to do? And I'm just going to say, yeah, override it. So now it's exporting 4 files. So I can, one step, export a bunch of files.
In your suggestion, that's going to
I've done 50, 60. A lot of times I'll be the photographer for some events, and they want pictures, so I might have 150 pictures organized. So I'll create them a CD or something, and then have a folder for each day or something. Yeah, there's really not a limit. It might just take a little while. The other module up here that you might find useful, amaze your friends and family, you get all these photos that you like, is the slideshow button. And go into that. It gives you some options around, colors. If you want to have a little shadow around your picture. You want to have an identity plate. It shows up at the top. You want an intro screen. So I had something set up one time, and then just say, oh, I had music on it before. So you can add a music track to it if you want. So then it'll create this slideshow and play it for you. So you're at the family gathering and you want to show people pictures. You can create a slideshow and it'll just run and you can set it to repeat. So
I think this one does, you give a piece of music, it will adjust everything to the song.
yeah.
So there's some that does it, it's somewhat nice. I've also seen other ones that do not work.
Add text to a particular photo in this slideshow.
Not a specific photo. You'd have to go to Lightroom or something like that can add text to it. I mean Photoshop. Thank you. I'm thinking one and saying the other.
Bunch of
But,
days in a merge.
So you can't add text in Lightroom at all?
only thing you can is that export, where you can add that watermark. So if you want to put text on it, you kind of have to go out to another program, Photoshop or something. Doing things like, borders and shadows and stuff. You can do that on slideshow, but
So if you want to put the name of the bird and all these birds and then have a slideshow.
well, you might be able to, on the slideshow, show text overlay. Can you show the metadata? Yeah, I don't see it. That would be nice to show the metadata. But I'm not seeing it. But so you can create, different zoom in, zoom out effects and things.
What's the text underlines?
See that, where it says happy birthday up at the upper left? I was out with friends and I made a slideshow for them, but, so it's interesting. I don't use it that often. So, there's some other features that really not going to get into. There is Adobe's come out with Lightroom Mobile. So it's a mobile app that's called Lightroom. And it allows you to take pictures and do some basic editing on your phone or your tablet. And it will sync those pictures with your version of Lightroom. So if I was out with my phone and I took a bunch of pictures, and it would eventually upload those pictures to the Adobe website, and then they would download and put them into my catalog here. I think I've played around with this, and it shows up as a collection, I think.
So is it just an app, or would it
It's-
actually be the?
It's an app on the phone.
Install the, Lightroom Mobile on your phone. Then you gotta log into your Adobe account,
Yeah.
and on both devices, and that's how it's transferred to your account.
So
It's not really for high volume or anything, just say you're, each outpoint, a bunch of pictures, and there's stuff like 5 favorites you like. You like flying on the plane, you want to touch up on it or something. And by the time you get back, it's uploaded to your home. All the changes will sync on, we'll go through 5 steps, okay? But you're of course limited to what the app has.
So I've played around with that. It's marginally useful. It takes up space on my phone, so I take it off.
I'm on my tablet, so,
Yeah.
because it has a lot of screen.
If you've got 1,000 pictures and you want to make a slideshow of 50 of them, do you go through and select and control select all these things and then say slideshow? And then how do you add to it?
What I would do is create a collection. You know, we talked about creating
Oh, yeah, okay.
collections, and then the ones that I want, I would put them into that collection, and then bring those up in the collection itself, and make my slideshow from that. Yeah, instead of like every time you want to do a slideshow, go click, click, click. That would get old really, really quick. So, good question. The other modules, web, again, it's not real useful, but it will create the HTML files for you to kind of put on a website. It's not like like the websites that you upload your pictures to and they handle all the display. It makes all the HTML code and pages for you. But I don't know anybody that really uses that anymore, because there are, so many free things out there that you just upload your pictures and they handle all the display and forward and backwards and all that stuff. So that one's marginally useful. The other one is the map function. And if your pictures have GPS coordinates in them, it'll show them on a map. And you can show them on Google Maps. None of my cameras do that. You can buy little things that plug into your camera that kind of adds GPS coordinates as you take the pictures. That's just another thing hanging off the bottom of my camera that I really don't want. It could be useful if you go on a big, 30-day cruise, and you get back and you say, I don't remember where I took this picture. Because everything runs together after a while. If you had the GPS coordinates,
The 7D Mark III has a GPS.
okay,
But it needs the battery. Like it stays on all the time.
yeah,
So you're out there, you might run out of battery.
yeah,
But you need it on. So it's got to play its pros and cons.
yeah. So, and there's ways, there's little GPS trackers that are not attached to the camera that you can carry with you, and it kind of records it. And then you can take the output file of that and merge it in with your Lightroom, and then it automatically, as long as the camera time is correct, it looks up by time, where were you at this date and time, and puts the coordinates on there, and then you can find it on the map. I played with it a little bit, but I don't use it. So these are things that Lightroom has. If you want to create like a photo book, you can use this, and it'll do some layouts for you, and then you could send it to a printer. Now,
They're the ones you got listed, that's it.
yeah, what I do is, if I go to Shutterfly or whoever, they have their own way of creating photo books, and you upload your photos and you put them on the pages and add your text. I don't use the book module here. And again, I don't know anybody that does. So, this might have been a good idea at one time, but I don't think I think most people are going to use, whatever program that the printing company is going to want you to use. So,
You mentioned Google Calendar. What's your preferred printer?
printing company,
Yeah, how do you do your orders?
the ones that I sell, the calendars that I sell,
Well,
or
you just mentioned, wait, calendar, earlier this week. You mentioned
Okay.
that. I was just wondering which, program or applet or whatever.
most of the things that I get printed, I get from a company called Bay Photo. I'm not even sure where they're located, but some of these things you upload them, and they're not the cheapest, but they always have really consistent, good quality. There's a lot of them that are just as good out there.
Where's Len get his stuff?
Who?
Remember Len Grieber, he made one?
Yeah, I don't know where he gets his. So, for photo prints on paper, I use, Bay Photo. If I'm doing canvas prints, there's a Simply Color Lab, does a really good job on canvas prints. And they'll do custom sizes. A lot of places, they limit you on the sizes.
Who did you say for?
Custom, for canvas is Simply Color Lab. So, but like I said, there's lots of other, who do you use to get your prints made?
I haven't settled anything. I do have Bay Labs installed, I've used them. I have used Adorama.
I've used them in the past. They're much cheaper,
Yeah.
Adorama.
You like Miller?
I've not used them, but, again, they're a professional photo lab. They're
The
gonna,
girl that did my family photos, the paper, the canvas, everything was amazing. And then how they sent it was nice.
yeah.
Who was it?
Miller. Miller Photography.
Yeah. So, there's,
Local. It's the one local, the one in,
he closed.
closed. Okay.
I think he's
I
gone out
found
of
one in
business.
Abington I've been meaning to try. He said he'll do any size.
Yeah. So, there aren't a whole lot of options local besides going to Walgreens,
But there's a guy in Abington that, he has rolls and rolls with his, he has a large width, so it's seamless, so.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet, but he will fulfill the one order I ever got. If I knew he was there.
Yeah. So, but like I said, there's a lot of companies out there. Most all of them do a really good job. So, see if I have missed anything, because we got like 10 minutes left. I think we have covered everything that was on my list. You have questions?
Are there any particular websites you recommend for setting up a website? You have one, I don't remember who you use, but
Uh,
would you use them again if you were starting one new, or
I use one called SmugMug,
Mug? Yeah.
and I've used them for years. When I first set it up, you could do online ordering. They would take care of the printing and the billing, and I would get my percentage. That was costing me too much. I went away from they'll do just the website without the selling, and that's not too bad. But they got a lot of really nice web site design tools, and you don't have to know how to create websites.
Right.
Point and click and drag and drop. So
Even can take a domain that your just the brand it yourself.
Yeah, SmugMug's good. There's several others.
Flickr, is that probably not as good?
Is that even is it going away? Is Flickr going away?
I never heard
I don't know. There's several out there. Things like Flickr, I think it's free. SmugMug charges you money. So, I think Google Photos, you can use that. Instagram, whatever. Google Photos is, it's just another one of those free Google services. If you have an Android phone, it automatically puts your photos in there. So you can put stuff out there and then share it. Other questions? Those of y'all that haven't taken the plunge and gone to the $9.99 a month plan, do you think you'll stay where you are, or drink the Kool-Aid and the $9.99 a month plan?
They said you can turn it on and off, or not. I just don't know if I would use it enough, I guess is what I'm. That's
Yeah.
why I decided to buy the 6, because I was afraid I was.
Yeah. And if if it's something you don't use it very much, it's really hard to pay money every month when you're not using it. Yeah, like a gym membership. Yeah.
Well, some of it too is like, trying to learn how to still use some of the features. Sometimes I feel like I would do something, I don't know what it's doing, or I don't know how to do this, and it's frustrating, so.
Yeah. You still can get the standalone version for a short time. I don't know how much longer you'll even be able to get that.
That's why I have to buy that a while ago, obviously.
Yeah. So, and that'll keep running until you get some Microsoft Windows or Apple update, and all of a sudden it quits working, and you have to have a newer version, and then you kind of, you may run for a very long time and never have that problem. So it's just they don't support it, and they don't guarantee that it'll work on future operating system releases. But There are other programs besides Lightroom that are becoming more competitive. On One is one I use. I don't know, do you use any of the
I
others?
haven't, and I try to keep using it, or I just don't, you know. Light was so more natural to me that,
Yeah,
oh, I know I can get done real quick here.
it's what, yeah, so,
But once in a while, if there's some feature or something comes up, say, hey, yeah, it does come up better here.
you
There
know,
is a free, I'm trying to remember what.
Darkroom,
Dark room. That's it.
or
Yep.
Darkroom, or Darktable, or something like that, but it's a free Lightroom lookalike, public domain software. Has, you know, 3/4 of the functionality for zero cost. I have not looked at it, you know, I don't know anything about it, I just know it's out there. And, so that's an alternative.
For my, little photo illiterate family. I found a JPEG editor that has intelligence. You give it what it was, it analyzes the pictures, figures out what the background is, the foreground is, and then edits it for you. And one click, it's done. It does a decent job. It's better than the original.
The auto button was
Autobutton does a pretty good job on the new release. You know, if you don't have the current release, it's,
Once in a while, I take pictures at work, and I want something to brighten up the picture real quick. So I bought it for that reason, so I put on my work computer and get it done. Well, when I got it, I got like 5 licenses. So my daughter-in-law, I gave her my old TI, and she doesn't even know what editing, so I gave her a copy, and one of my granddaughters, Indian photography, so that was real simple for her to brighten up the pictures instead of submitting it check the camera. So I gave them some licenses for that,
Sure.
for piece of software, so it's helped them.
The other thing I forgot to mention, I think I told Umberto the other day, when you buy a copy, you can install it on up to 2 computers. So if you have a laptop and a home computer that, you know, you have to take one on trips and the other one you want to use at home, it'll run on both. So,
Just make sure you uninstall it when you're done with it. Because you try to install it on a third computer, or your hard drive failed, you try to reinstall it, it won't let you. You gotta call Adobe and explain what's going on, and they'll clear that for you, but look, hassle.
They do try and keep up with how many places you've installed it.
Are there a few sections in the development, when we talk about how much the tone curve?
Okay.
If you're messing with that, we're gonna really look at it, and then there's region, and then split toning.
Okay, let me,
Or who did I mess with?
no? Let me go back and pick one. I don't want to edit the. I'm going to find one that might be useful. We'll just start with this one. So, I use them less often now. So, under the basic panel, there's one just below it called Tone Curve. Open that up, and you see there's a kind of a grayscale copy of the histogram. The histogram's up here, showing you the darks and the brights. There's a grayscale copy of it down here, and then there's 4 sliders. So highlights, lights, darks, and shadows. These sliders do similar things to the ones up here under the basic panel. You know, you got highlights, shadows, whites and blacks. Tone curve it's a little bit different in that if I change the black slider here, watch the histogram at the top. It moves it to the left, so it's taking things that are kind of gray and making them darker black. Same thing, whites, I move it, it's taking things on that side and making them brighter. The tone curve allows you to change things by specific region. So if you see this section right here, you see there's kind of bigger peaks here. It says there's more things in the picture kind of in this dark area, and that's, you know, the dark blues and these things here. I wanted to brighten up some of this right here. I can just click on that curve and drag it up, and you'll see things in the picture start to get brighter. You can do the same thing. And it's what it's doing is moving those sliders around. So it does similar things if you darken the dark parts and brighten the bright parts. Basically, you're increasing the contrast. So you can do some of that. It's also got a targeted adjustment thing. You know, the little target thing here. You can click on that and say, I want to increase the brightness of these trees here. So that's, I don't know what that is, but it's pretty dark. So I can just click in there and drag up, and it'll try to brighten it up. It's not great. I can do the same thing down here, brighten up that tonality. It's working on tonality, the brightness, not colors. So I used to use this before. I don't use it as much since I tend to stay up here in the basic panel. Do you use the tone curve much anymore?
No, the information I heard is when you put it there for those Photoshop people who are used to using the tone curve in their Photoshop work, and they're just used to use that tool. So it's basically the same thing, it's just the tool, retooled for their use. So it's for the old people who want to use the same interface.
Seems more specific.
Hmm?
Seems more specific.
It could be, but you know, when I'm changing, see if I grab here on the lower left that line and drag it down, it's not just changing that tone, it's changing the stuff that's around it, brighter and darker as well. So
You can't lock it in.
yeah, so it's
Click point, lock the point in.
yeah, it's
It doesn't have that option.
yeah, it's so.
What
So
was your shutter? I'm just curious about what kind of shutters you use in water.
0.8 of a second. So generally, you know, half a second to a second for flowing water. Yeah. Split toning, didn't cover that one. And it's a way of adding color. You can add two different colors. You can add one color to the brighter spots of your picture and another color to the darker spots. And it kind of goes back to old film developing days. So if I say I want to add a color to the highlights part of my picture, maybe make them the highlights kind of a greenish, I don't know, and then the dark parts maybe a reddish brown. You can get some funky effects, and then I can adjust. I can make more highlights or more darks, drag it around, adjust the. So you know, you can do some things. I don't use this very often. I have used it some, but you know, you're just kind of applying colored tints to different tonality in your pictures. You can get a kind of a retro film look sometimes doing that. So reset this now. This one, it was really foggy when I took this. I liked the fog in the trees, but I didn't like the fog kind of muddling that part. I was going to show you good use of that dehaze filter. Let me get the graduated filter, add some dehaze to it, drag from the bottom up. See what it's done. It's like there's no fog in the foreground, but there is still fog back in the trees. So you can selectively remove fog that way.
Or you have a light bar on the wall.
Yeah, you could. So I could add another one and turn down the haze, so I can add even more fog to the top. Fog can be really cool, but sometimes you want to take some of it out. Yeah. I think we've covered all the panels here. Better or worse or the same from first and second time?
Better.
Oh, well. Yeah, you were using my old computer last time.
Yeah, mine had a virus.
So, all righty. Well,
Thank you.